All right, thank you so much. Welcome to the second class of the SBL, which is the Strategic Business Leader and one of the essential exam of the professional level. So yesterday we had the introduction regarding the subject that, okay, this is a 3 hours and 15 minutes exam, and just like the other professional papers, and there are 20 professional marks. So we discussed regarding professional marks as well, and we'll keep on discussing those professional marks when we are practicing questions. So the idea is that we are going to study the topics first, and right after each topic, we are going to practice the questions. Sometimes we do the past paper as well, not the full one, because it is not possible unless and until you are done with the full syllabus. So we'll keep practicing on the questions from the Kaplan kit, from the other resources. So don't worry about that. Okay, so yes, right now we have almost 10 students. We will start in 2 minutes time. Just 2 minutes. All right, so I'm going to mute you guys during the lecture because we record the lecture. So to avoid the interruption, we actually record the lecture. Sorry, we mute you guys. And if you have any question, you can use the hand raise option, and there's one other option which is using the chat box. So once you do that, there will be a blank notification on the screen, and I can see that, okay, which student is asking the question, and then I'll be pausing the class to answer your queries. So this is how it works. All right, so the first chapter is the concept of the strategy. And we know that the name of the paper is the strategic business leader. So that means there's a term strategic, which we need to understand. I mean, because we know what is business and activity undertaken to generate profit. We have studied this thing so many times. And then the leader, strategic business leader. This is what we discussed in the last lecture, that you are no longer be expected to have the role of the conventional accountant only. That means that just you know the knowledge of the spreadsheet and passing the journal entries, etc., etc. A complete package is expected from a professional accountant. That a professional accountant should have the business leadership skills as well, because when they are running a company, when they're responsible, or when they're in charge of running a company, they should know how to make the strategies, what sort of strategies will make the company profitable, what sort of strategies will help the company to achieve their goals, what sort of strategies will help the company to get the long-term success and to get the more market share in the market, to provide the value to the customers. So there are so many things that nowadays is being expected from a professional accountant. So that is why there is an existence of this paper. So the strategic term is what we are going to discuss in this chapter. So the concept of the strategy, so chapter number 1. Now there are different definitions of the strategy, and different authors and different writers have expressed their understanding of the strategy. First of all, we are going to discuss JSW definition of the strategy, and in their book, which is quite famous, was Exploring Corporate Strategy. They have defined this term strategy over there. So let's discuss what they have said. So JSW in their book, which is Exploring Corporate Strategy, have defined strategy as the direction and the scope of an organization. So, when we talk about the scope of an organization, so that simply means what an organization does. Like say, for example, if I have the investment and I want to invest in somewhere, now I need to know where should I invest. Like there are different sectors. There's a manufacturing sector, there's a service sector, there's a trading sector, banking sector, hospitals, education. There are so many things. So scope of an organization. Now what the organization does, like they have different sort of activities. And the direction. Now the direction is how they are actually working, how their activities are to achieve the objective, and which is the long-term objectives. What exactly are they doing to achieve the long-term objective? What strategies are they making to achieve the long-term objectives? What tools, what processes, what activities, what marketing they are doing to achieve the long-term objective? So the direction, that means whatever they are doing, which direction means the activities in which direction they're going, and the scope of what they does, actually what the business model is, what their product is, what their services are, in which market they're operating, and then which achieves advantage in a changing environment. Now, this is something very important when it comes to this chapter, because in the exam, when the question is coming from this chapter, we know that will be coming either from the external analysis or the internal analysis. We'll discuss that thing in a while. For example, a question is coming from the pestle. Now, what exactly the pestle is, that is a separate topic, but we'll take a flavor in this chapter as well. So when you talk about an organization works in the open system, not the closed system. The closed system is one which we see in the science lab, the chemistry lab, when you're doing a chemical reaction, and you see, okay, we are reacting this chemical with this chemical, and none other than these two chemicals should involve in the reaction. That is exactly the closed system. But when you talk about the organization, the companies, they cannot operate in the closed system. That closed system means that they are not affected by the external environment. No, this is not possible. External environment is always going to affect the organization. It can be a positive effect, it can be a negative impact. We are not talking about the positive and negative. We are saying that the company operates in an open system, and which is subject to the changing environment. Like, for example, when the political environment is changing, let's assume the new government is coming, the government is making new policies, they are being, lenient toward the company, they are providing them the finances, they are making flexible policies for the companies, they want to grow the sector. So that means there's a favorable outcome coming from the external environment, and which is, the strong and, the consistent, the stable political environment. Similarly, for example, if my company sells, the luxury products, it has too much to do with the economy, because, if the people have money, then they will be buying the luxury products. If there's economic recession, the people are suffering, they don't have the money. So that means our company will be affected as well, because, that the luxury products, they are being purchased when you have the surplus money, when you have too much money, when you have, when your economy is going fine, when everyone is wealthy and rich. So that means the company cannot operate in a closed system. They are going to operate in the open system, which is subject to the changing environment. So which achieves advantage in a changing environment through its configuration of the resources and competencies with the aim of fulfilling the stakeholders' expectations. Now, the changing environment, we've discussed it. That it is all about, the political environment, how, the government and the policies are affecting the organization and the sector and the industry. And then similarly, we have the economic activities, economy, and then we have the social structure. And then we have the tech factors, and then we have the eco factors, and we have the legal factors. So there are so many things that we are going to, talk about. So pastel, yes, the changing environment through its configuration of the resources and competencies. Now, I give you the example. For example, the government is making the flexible policies. So how the company can take the benefit from those flexible policies? Like, for example, if we are a tech company and the government wants to, invest, the government wants to boost the tech companies because, they want to bring the technological changes within their country, and they want to be, a technological, technologically fine country. So that means, they spend within those sectors. If we are a tech company, we'll take the benefit because, the government is going to spend in our sector. So with the configuration of the resources and competencies with the aim of fulfilling the stakeholder expectation. When you talk about the stakeholders, we know they are the individuals and the group who can affect or be affected with the decision of the organization. So when you talk about the shareholders, they are the stakeholders. What expectation do they have from the company? That they get the increase in the share price, they get the dividends. For example, when you talk about the lenders, what expectation they do have from the company, that the company, when they take the loan, they give them, the timely repayments, etc., etc. So fulfilling stakeholder expectation, that when you talk about a company, it's all about maximizing the shareholders' wealth. So this is the objective. This is the definition of the JSW, that the direction and the scope of an organization. So say, for example, if I have a company which is a service industry, so what exactly we are doing and what our activities are to achieve the long-term objectives, and how we are coping up with the changes in the environment, the changes in the technology. Every time, our competitors are working on a new product, they're doing the research and developments, so they can bring a better product than us. So how we are coping up with the changing in the environment, how, how the AI is, just changing the tech market. So whether we are working on that, whether, like, for example, you see like the chat GPT, this is something, nowadays the people discuss, that the AI, that you can do everything on that. You can write the articles through that, you can do the research thing, etc., etc. So many things. The AI is changing the world. So if we are, a service industry, how, the things are affecting all products and services. So the second definition is, now we'll read the Chandler, the determination of the basic long-term goals and the objective of an enterprise. So what are the goals and objectives? So when you talk about the goals and the objectives, let me just switch to the last slide so that we can discuss these things over here. I've explained the goals and objective in a separate slide. So this is the goals. The goals are aims for an entity to achieve and expressed in the narrative terms. Like, for example, as I said, to maximize the shareholders' wealth. So this is the goal. And when you talk about the objectives are derived from the goals, but they are being measured. When, for example, to maximize the shareholders' wealth. So what sort of profit you want to achieve, what share price you want to achieve. So now that Goal can be measured, and in that term, we call that thing as the objective. So going back to the definition again, this one, yes. So the determination of the basic long-term goals and the objectives of an enterprise means the organization, and the adoption of the courses of action, that means what strategies they are making, and the allocation of the resources, the finance, the human resource, the intellectual properties necessary for carrying out these goals. For example, what resources do they have in terms of financial resources, human capital, natural capital, and how they are using those resources, and what strategies, what course of action do they have to achieve that objective. So this is the term strategy. That strategy simply means that what the entity does, how they are managing their resources in order to achieve the strategic objective. So this is what we call as a strategy. And remember, when we talk about the strategy, it can be a short-term strategy, a long-term strategy. But when we use the term strategic, we always talk about the basic long-term goals. So there can be a short-term strategy as well. But when we use the term strategic, we are talking about the long-term. You see in every definition we have discussed. So you see this is the long-term goals, the long-term goals, the long-term goals. So the term strategic means the long term. Okay, now we have different strategies, levels of strategies. The levels of strategies are the corporate strategy, business strategy, and the operational function strategy. So let's assume we have the money and we need to invest somewhere. So let's assume there's an organization, they have the surplus money and they're looking to invest somewhere. Corporate strategy means that where are they going to invest? What business they should be in? What business they should be in? What sector they should be in? So that is the corporate strategy. And then once the corporate strategy is made, then it comes to the business strategy. If, say, for example, if we invested in the education sector, so that is the corporate strategy because we choose a sector where to invest. Corporate strategy means we have decided the education sector. Okay, let's invest in the education sector. Now we have the business strategy. So within the education sector, we will have the different domains. For example, we are offering the professional qualifications such as ACCA and other professional certifications. We have the degree programs, for example. We have the PhDs, we have the post PhDs, we have the diplomas. So once we decide where to invest, that is a corporate strategy. Once we have invested, now we have the different products and different services. So we make different strategies for different products and services. For example, let's assume we have the diplomas. So how we market the diplomas and where we market the diplomas, what are those potential customers? Where do we find the people who are going to buy our diplomas? Like, for example, the degree programs, where we should do the marketing so that the people get the admissions in our degree programs, where we do the marketing so that the people get enrolled in our professional qualifications. That is the business strategy. So once you decide the sector, then you have the different products and services within that sector, and that is a business strategy. Then the third one is the operational or functional strategy. So now you have different, the function, IT functions, marketing functions, sales function, HR function. So when you are making the strategy where to invest, that is the corporate strategy. Once you have made that investment, and now you have different products and services. So for individual products and services, for individual markets, when you're making the strategies, that is the business strategy. And then you have different functions, for example, the IT functions, HR functions, accounting functions. That is the operational and the functional strategy. So these are the three levels of the strategy: the corporate strategy, the business strategy, and the operational or functional strategy. And now the question is that why we are studying these things? Do we have to write these strategies in the exam? No, the examiner is not going to ask you to define corporate strategy. But we need to understand the strategy first in order to make the strategy. Because, like when you talk about the functional strategy, Say for example, we have something to do with the IT function. So not the complete board is sitting to make this IT strategy. Maybe this has been delegated to the IT director, the IT manager. Similarly, when you talk about the business strategy, maybe this thing is being allocated to the head of the division. So when you talk about the corporate strategy, then it comes to the senior management of the company, which are the directors. They're sitting as a whole to decide this corporate level strategy. So you should know which strategy is made at the board level and which strategy is delegated to to the individual directors and the division heads and etc. So the corporate strategy, business strategy, and the operational of the function strategy. So corporate strategy is concerned with deciding which business or businesses an entity should be in and setting targets for the achievement of the entity's overall objectives. So as I said that, for example, if I want to invest, first I need to decide where to invest. So this is all about the corporate strategy. So the elements of the corporate strategy are, for example, deciding the purpose of the entity, the scope of the activities, like what will you be doing, what the entity does, and matching the chosen business activities to the external environment. This is something very, very important. There's a separate model on this particular point as well. Like say, for example, we are operating in a country where the country is famous for the agricultural activities. Say, for example, we are operating in a country that supports the IT structure. So that means matching the chosen business activities to the external environment. So if in our country the tech is growing, why not to invest in the tech sector? If in our country the agriculture is growing, why not to invest in the agriculture sector? If in our country the textile is growing, why not to invest in the textile sector? There's a separate model on it. We'll be doing that. And then similarly, the matching and purpose and activities to the organization and to the expectation of its owners, like the shareholders. Sometimes the shareholders, they want, to realize the investment quickly. They want the projects which have the lesser payback period. Sometimes there are shareholders who say, take your time and we need the long-term returns. We need the long-term stability. Don't worry about the short-term returns. We don't need the short-term returns. We're looking for the long-term returns. Similarly, some shareholders say, take the risk. They are the risk takers. Some are conservative, some are averse. So that means some take moderate risk. So what are the expectation of the owners? Accordingly, the board will be taking the decisions. And then matching the purpose and activities of the expectation of other stakeholders in the organizations, and other stakeholders are the key management personnel, for example, and the general public. And, for example, you cannot invest in a sector which has the environmental degradation, because for example, the green consumers are not going to like that thing. So there are so many things that the entity needs to look when they are making the corporate strategy. And everything is very important, because when it comes to the case study, like there will be a fictitious company and they tell you regarding their strategies and activities, then you are the one who needs to look at their strategy. So you need to know what type of the strategies we have. So the business strategy is also called the competitive strategy, is concerned with how each business activity, as I said, for example, you have multiple products, you have the multiple services, you operate in different cities, you operate in different markets. So how you're making the strategy for those business activities. For example, if you operate in Europe, what is the strategy for the Europe? If you operate, for example, in for example, North America, South America. So how you're making the strategy for that sort of region. So that is the business strategy. For example, making the strategies for different products, different services. And then you have the functional strategy, which is relevant to the function. For example, how you are dealing with your research and development, how you are dealing with your accounting function, how you are dealing with your marketing and selling function, how you are dealing with your distributions. So what sort of distribution channels you have, what sort of marketing tools you have. Are you doing the strategic marketing or conventional marketing? Are you in the research and development? Are you doing the research and development yourself, or you have the freelancers doing the research and development for your organizations? So this is the operational and the functional strategy. So these are the three levels of the strategy. All right, now we have the strategic drift. Like we see many companies, many organizations getting in, and then within a short period of time, they just get out of the market. So, like you just look at your surrounding and the business environment. You see many organizations. I'm not talking about the companies, uh, just the companies. I'm talking about any organization. For example, you talk about the sole traders, you talk about the partnerships and the firms, and then you talk about the companies as well. You see many businesses coming in to the market in a particular sector, they invest, and in a short span of time, in a short period of time, they just get vanished. They just get out of the market. What exactly is that? Why they are not able to sustain? Why they are not able to continue? Why they are unable to achieve their objective? So that is due to this strategic drift. The strategic drift can be defined as a gradual deterioration of a competitive action that results in the failure of an organization to acknowledge and respond to the changes in the business environment. We have seen many companies, many organizations getting out of the market. And, many times we know the reason behind that. Like say, for example, even the layman sometimes they talk about those things. For example, there was a business, there was a restaurant, and it got open, and then they just sustained only 6 months, and then they got out of the market. And the people were saying the location they chose was not appropriate because there were issues of the parking, and it was quite cloudy, and etc. etc. So that means even the laymen are able to comment that why they had the failure. So that means when you are investing in a particular sector, when you are making the corporate strategy, so that means you need to make sure that once you have made the investment, you need to adopt the changes, the changes in the business environment. And when we say the changes in the business environment, and these are the external changes. These are the external changes. So external changes can be anything. For example, you talk about, let's assume, let me give you the example of the Samsung. They operate very differently from the Apple. The Apple, what they do, they launch one model every year. Like it's around September, October, they launch one model every year. For example, the last one was 14, 14 Pro, 14 Pro Max, and then now they will be having, the different models coming up, probably the 15, yes, as we speak now. So just giving an example. But what about the Samsung? With the Samsung, you see every time, even today, I was in the market for something, and the shopkeeper was showing to me that, okay, you see, this is the new model the Samsung has launched. So every few days, they are bringing new models into the market. Why? Why is that? Why they are making such, strategies that every few days they launch the different cell phones in the market? If I talk about my market in which the Samsung is operating, which is Samsung Pakistan, what they do is they see that they have different competitors within the local structure, which sell the phones at very competitive prices. Like there's a lot of population in and a significant proportion of the population is using the smartphones, and not everyone can afford the luxury phones. They need the phones which are very, affordable. So there are local, there are local companies which make very good cell phones at a very reasonable price. So Samsung, being an international company operating in the same market, what they do, they see that, okay, their competitors are launching, the phones in the market, which is, the basic phone, and it includes all the things. It is, have the RAM, ROM, speed, cameras, pixels, each and everything. So if they are not going to respond to their competitors' strategy, then the Samsung can simply get out of the market. You see, this had happened with the Nokia in the past, that there was a time when around the 75% of the population of the world was using the Nokia. There was a time that the 75% of the population of the world was using Nokia. And where we see Nokia nowadays, it was being acquired years back by the Microsoft, and now, we don't see their phones. Like, exceptionally, we see their phones coming up in the market, and now they're no longer being the competitor in the cell phone industry. So how they dropped from the 75% to nothing? Because they didn't adopt the changes that the market was adopting, the changes that were, and they just stood at what they were offering to the, first of all, the Symbian phones, and then they launched the Windows phone, and they were very reluctant to launch, the smartphones, which is the Android technology. So they just took too much time to switch over there, and now you see they are actually out of the market. So that means for every business, it is very important that once you have made the strategy, you keep reviewing your strategy. We'll discuss that in a while, what we exactly term that thing. So you just keep reviewing your strategy to adopt the changes, which is the changes in the business environment. And these are the external changes. So these are the external changes. So this is strategic drift, can be defined as a gradual deterioration, as I have given you the example of the Nokia. So this drop from 75% of the world using the phone and then to nothing, that results in the failure of an organization to acknowledge and respond to the changes in the business environment. So you see around yourself, see your surroundings, see the organizations, and you see many business coming in and then immediately getting out of the market just because they are not adopting the changes within the market. So you see in the COVID, the pandemic, the markets were shut down, the businesses were closed. And then obviously what you have to do, you have to sustain in that period, because when it became apparent that, okay, there's something, happening to the world with respect to that virus, the COVID. It started in late 2019. That is why we term as COVID-19. So, the initially they said, okay, it will take 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then the half of the year, and then the full year, and then 2020, 21. So it took years to, get rid of that pandemic. And there were businesses who made a huge amount of profit by quickly adopting that change. For example, like the restaurants, they were not offering the dine-ins, and then they made different strategies. Those who were not delivering, they started the home deliveries, and then different strategies they made to just cope up with the changes and to just keep on running their business so that they are not completely shut down. So that is the strategic drift. So these are the causes of the strategic drift. The cultural influences in maintaining strategic stability and sometimes resisting strategic change, like within the organization, sometimes, there is an autocratic structure, and, the decision is coming from the board and they are not involving the other stakeholders within their decision making, and that the strategic management, which is the senior management, is very reluctant to adopt the changes, and they're very conservative, and eventually they are out of the market. So the effect of the politics and the relative influence on the decision making and things like that, that are the causes of the strategic drift. We don't need to learn these things because that has nothing to do with the exam. Just the understanding of the term, so that if something is coming in the exam with respect to this, you are able to give them the strategies that how we can avoid the strategic drift, how the company can continue its business, how they can be sustainable, how they can achieve the long-term objective, and how they can save themselves from the strategic drifts. So yes, these are the strategies, and these are very important. Regularly assesses its environment for the changes. You know, you just keep on looking what is happening in the market, what your competitors are doing, what is happening in your industry, what are the changes in the laws and the regulation, what are the changes in the consumer behaviors, what are the changes in the social behavior, the social patterns. Has flexible systems for reacting to the changes to its environment. That means the flexible system means that the company should be, you know, open to the changes that they are going to adopt. It should not be conservative, hesitant, reluctant. Breaks down barriers to change by having an organizational structure that successfully copes with the change. You know, whenever there is something, you just, you know, keep a board meeting, discuss those things, make the strategies to cope up with those situations. Has a clear idea of its mission and objectives, has strong leaders who are willing and able to make changes to the organization, because, you know, it's all about the senior management, it's all about the CEOs, it's all about the directors who are sitting at the board. They need to, you know, just discuss these things, and okay, these are the changes in the market and how we are going to cope up with that. Now we have the most important terms that is being used within our strategic management, which is the competitive advantage. You know, like when you talk about the competitors, who are the competitors? Competitors mean that they are selling the same product, same service, they're in the same sector, and they're competing with each other. Because, you know, like say, for example, if I say there is a market and the name of the market is XYZ. So XYZ is the name of the market. And in this market, there are, let's assume, 1 million buyers. So XYZ is the market where there are 1 million buyers. And now we have different businesses. Say, for example, we have A, we have B, we have C, 3 businesses. And these 3 businesses are selling the same product or the same service, or they're in the same sector. Now, 1 million buyers will remain the same. That, okay, this is the size of the market, 1 million buyers. And now, in order to entertain 1 million buyers, there are 3 businesses. Now, every business, for example, the A, B, and C, they will make effort to acquire the maximum market share. Like, for example, A will try to acquire the maximum market share. Market share means that to reach the maximum customers, B will do the same effort, C will do the same effort. Now that means in that effort, what you have to do, you have to make your product and the service so special that these 1 million buyers prefer your product and service. That is simply a competitive advantage. A condition or circumstance that puts a company in a favorable or superior business position. Now, it can be anything. It can be anything. Like, say, for example, if I want to buy a meal for myself. So there are different, and there are 3, let's assume, restaurants. So which restaurant I will be choosing? Now, there are different factors. Maybe, you know, I don't like to travel much, and A is closer to me. So the location is very close to my residence. So I choose A just because of the location. So maybe the A's location is very attractive, and that is being the reason that the people are preferring the A product. So let's assume B. Maybe the B take less time making that meal. And I usually have the time constraints. For example, I want to go to the office and I have less time to stop by. And B, takes less time to offer me that meal. So I prefer B because it takes less time to offer the meals. So it can be anything. It can be the location factor. It can be the time factor. It can be the taste factor. It can be, the price factor. It can be anything. A condition or circumstance that puts a company in a favorable or superior business position. So competitive advantage is any advantage that entity holds that enables it to deliver more value to the customer than its competitors. And it can be anything. Like, for example, if you go to the gas stations and there are different gas stations when you're refilling the gas. So let's assume, there's a gas station where I can find the tuck shop. They offer a very good coffee, and then I take a donut, something like that. Maybe you're thinking that, the Mr. Rashid Hussain is giving too much example of the food. So this, I was giving an example of the gas station, and then there was an example of the food coming up over there. So that means, I want to refill the gas, and there are different gas stations, but there's one gas station who has a very good tuck shop, and once you stop over there, you can buy yourself a coffee and a donut to make yourself comfortable, and you just prefer that gas station because they have a tuck shop. That is a competitive advantage. So competitive advantage is essential for sustained strategic success. Sustain that means a long term. So you keep on doing different things which enables the customer to prefer your product and services. So it can be anything. For example, if you want to buy, a gaming system, and the company which is selling the gaming system, they give the service that, okay, once you order them, they will be coming and they will be installing that complete gaming system at your place. Say, for example, if you are buying the furniture, they give you the free delivery. Okay, so this is the value they're offering to the customer. And from the value, there is a competitive advantage. If everyone is doing that, so let's assume if everyone offers a free delivery, then that means not a value because it's a practice. Everyone is doing that. It will be a value, it will be a competitive advantage if you're doing something different than your competitor. If everyone is doing that, then it is not going to become a value. Then obviously you're not going to get the competitive advantage of that. So either you are doing it differently, or you have a different product or service altogether, or you're offering something better than that, or you're offering something additional. That will become the value and eventually the competitive advantage. So the value is what we have described. Like, for example, like the value is, for example, you go to the gas station and, there's a tuck shop over there. You go to buy the furniture, they offer you the free delivery. And for example, you go to buy a car and they offer you first three services free. So that means these are the values that the company is offering, and with the value there comes a competitive advantage. So competitive advantage arises from the customer's perception of the value provided by a firm's offering. For example, like there's an education sector offering the online courses. So like they give you the multiple access, for example. Let's assume there's a business online school. They offer you, one-time access only. Like, for example, you can only watch the video once. And then there is an online business school who allows you that you can watch a single video as many times as you wish. You consider this a value. Like, for example, sometimes, I'm just taking the lecture, I'm not having that much concentration. I want to watch that lecture again. So if, you just allow me to view it once and I cannot view it another time, and there's a business who offers me to view the lectures as many times, so I consider it as a value, and then I offer their course because of just this view thing. So competitive advantage arises from the customer's perception of the value provided by the firm's offering. And this perceived value might be due to the company selling products which are similar to those of its competitors, but at a lower price. with features that are attractive to the customers, and then the combination of the both, which we have discussed. All right, so now we have this Michael Porter and sustainable competitive advantage. So Michael Porter and the sustainable competitive advantage. Now, that when you're making a strategy, so the Michael Porter says that you have, three things to consider. One is the cost leadership, one is the differentiation, another one is the focus. So the Porter identified three ways how the companies achieve a sustainable advantage. And we are talking about the competitive advantage. Number one is the first strategy, which is the cost leadership. That you can get the competitive advantage by being the cost leader. That means offering the lowest price in the market. And the people prefer your business, people prefer your product and service because you are the most reasonable one in the market. And you are not earning any unusual profit. And you are keeping a very, very slight margin, and then you are selling the product at a very lower price. So the cost leadership. Now that means if you are making this strategy, there are multiple factors that a business needs to consider. Like say, for example, a few days back, when someone was discussing me that I am considering to drop the prices of my product, then I discussed him that, okay, you need to consider few things when you are taking such decision. The first point is that if you are dropping your price significantly, maybe your customer may think that there may be a drop in your quality as well due to the drop in the price. Like say, for example, like there's an audit firm and they're offering the services of assurance and non-assurance services. And, in order to get the most, more and more client, what they do is, they reduce the prices of their services. For example, the taxation service or any assurance and non-assurance service. And maybe it is being perceived that now they will be using, a lower staff, junior staff, less trained staff in order to, just manage with the prices they're offering with that service. So the cost leadership is that remember one thing, that the cost leadership strategy is where you are lowering your price and you are not lowering your quality. Because for example, if you're lowering your price and the quality as well, then you are not going to get the competitive advantage. So if your quality remains the same, and then yes, you have the lower price than other competitors, then you will get the competitive advantage. That is the cost leadership. Now we have the differentiation, which is the second strategy. The differentiation means that your company is doing that activity better in a different way. So means companies deliver better benefits than anyone else. For example, like differentiation, you are keeping the price same, you're not dropping anything, but that means you actually offer other different additional benefits. For example, the free delivery, you're offering the free delivery. For example, you're offering the free consultancy. For example, you're offering the free advisory. For example, you're offering the free refill. So differentiation. And then you have the focus strategy. The focus strategy is when you are targeting a particular niche and a particular segment. So say, for example, if there is a company who is selling the tablets and they are selling the tablets in the market, I'm talking about the tabs, the iPads, and the other tablets. So say, for example, they are selling the tablets and their tablets are at the lowest price in the market. That is the cost leadership. Now, differentiation. Differentiation means that they're selling the tablets and only their tablets have the, for example, 8 GB RAM, and none other than their company is offering this 8 GB RAM in that particular tablet. So that means this is the differentiation. And then, for example, the focus. Focus strategy is that you are targeting a particular segment, a particular niche. For example, you are selling the gaming tablets, and none other than your company is selling, the gaming tablets. Maybe the other are selling too, but you have focused that you are going to target the gaming sector, making, just like we have the gaming phones, the gaming laptops, and now you have made the gaming tablets. So that is the focus strategy. So cost leadership, just taking the example of the tablets, selling the tablets at the lowest price. Differentiation means that your tablets have the 8 GB RAM or any other feature which the others does not have. And the focus means that you are targeting a particular niche. For example, you are selling the gaming tablets. Or for example, you are making very lightweight tablets which can be used by the kids of a very small age. So you make the tablets for small age kids, which are very lightweight and manageable, a very moderate size or anything like that. So these are the 3 strategies that the company may adopt in order to get the sustainable competitive advantage. Either they are going to be the cost leaders, either they can go for the differentiation, or they can go for the focus strategy. All right, so now we have the process of strategy development. When you make a strategy, so when you're making it first time, you make it from the scratch. And then that is the deliberate strategy. Like when you're making a strategy, for example, if I want to invest in a particular sector, then, and I'll be making a strategy to, how to invest, where to invest. And once I've invested, how to take my product and take my service, how to market, how to get the market share, how to deliver, how to secure the supplies. So deliberate strategy is when you are making the strategy from the scratch. The board is sitting, the board is making a strategy. That is a deliberate strategy. And then we have the emergent strategy. Emergent means, for example, there is an unforeseen situation which has emerged, and now you are catering that particular situation, and you're making a strategy to cater that particular need or that particular issue. That is the emergent strategy. For example, I gave you the example of the COVID. So let's assume you have the restaurants, and you are quite famous in offering the lavish dine-in restaurants. Now, for example, the COVID, you are not allowed to offer the dine-in services. But obviously, what you need to do something in order to get sustainable, in order to continue your business, in order to be a going concern. So what you will do, you will adopt, that we had different, we have seen different strategies adopted by the business organization. They started the car dine-ins, for example, there was, a restaurant in my area, which was a quite lavish restaurant. So they used to offer the lavish dining services. And when there was a COVID, what they did, they in their parking, what they did, they installed a big screen in their parking, and different movies and different documentaries and things like that. The movies were being played over there, and then they were offering the car dining service. You just come, park your car, and they did, they made different car spots, keeping some, distance, which was recommended by the World Health Organization. So they just made those car parking spots. You need to car your park over there, and there's a screen over there, a movies being played, and you will be served in the disposable, disposable cutlery and disposable packings, and then you just eat in your car, enjoy that particular environment, particular movie, and then once you're done with your food, you can go, you can leave. So this was, a strategy which was the emergent strategy. They didn't do it before that. That was emergent strategy, just to cope up with the, the COVID, the pandemic thing, that now they are not able to offer the dining services, but they need to be a going concern. So what they should do? So they started this thing. Besides, the home delivery services, and then we have the incremental strategy. Incremental strategy is when you have an existing strategy and just the business environment is changing, so you just keep on reviewing your strategy and make some slight changes with the passage of time due to change in the business environment. That is the incremental strategy. So deliberate strategy, emergent strategy, and then we have the incremental strategy. So deliberate strategies are, as the name suggests, are strategies that one implements to follow a specific plan. For example, a 5-year career plan is a good example of the deliberate strategy, that you see where you want to be and in which sector you want to grow, etc., etc. So you're making a strategy from the scratch. So it is a formal strategic planning process, as I said, that the board will be sitting and making the strategy. So carry out the strategic position analysis. What is the position analysis? The position analysis means that you see your strengths, you see your weaknesses, you see the opportunities, you see the strengths, you see what the market is demanding, and what resources do you have, what competencies do you have, what capabilities do you have, and then you make the strategy. For example, like if I want to invest, I need to see how much finance I do have. So first of all, strategic position analysis. See how much finance do you have, how many people do you have, what human capital do you have, what natural capital do you have. And then you have, once you have done this analysis, that now you know your position, performance, and now you know what resources, competencies, and capabilities do you have, then you look at the strategic alternatives, like different options, choices. And then once you have chosen the one, you just implement your strategy. This is known as the deliberate strategy, also known as prescriptive or rationally planned strategy. You make a strategy from the scratch, looking at your position and then evaluating different options and then choosing one particular option or multiple options to implement. And then we have the emergent strategy. Emergent means that there are unforeseeable developments, sometimes opportunities. For example, let's assume there's a business which is leaving the market, and now you have the opportunity to grab their customers as well. So what strategy will be making to get their customers, to attract their customers, because now they're leaving the market. So things like that. And just like I gave you the example of the pandemic. So it can be anything, emergent strategy. And now the incremental strategies, like you have the strategy and the business environment is changing. So what you do is simply make some changes to the strategy due to the changes in the business environment. Okay, then we have the strategic planning framework. So rationally planning model is you make the strategy from the scratch, you decide your objectives, goals, and then you follow those goals to reach wherever you want to be. And then we have the gap analysis. The gap analysis means that you see where do you want to be and where you are now. So you see the gap, and then you make a strategy in order to cope up with that gap, which is the strategic gap. So where do we want to be and where we are? So that is the gap analysis. You just make a strategy to cover that gap. And then we have the rational planning model, which is the deliberate strategy. You're making a strategy from the scratch in order to achieve your long-term goals, objectives. Then we have the GSW strategic management, which is the three elements of the strategy making process. The first is that you do the strategic position analysis, and then you evaluate different choices, and then you implement that thing, that is the strategy into action. The strategic management process includes 3 stages. First of all, you do your position analysis, and then you evaluate different choices, And then we have the strategy into the action, that means implementation. So within the strategic position, all right, so within the strategic position, which is the position analysis, we will be looking at the environment. So when we say environment, so environment is the external environment. That means the threats, the opportunities, the external environment. And then we have the internal analysis, which is the strategic capability. That means the strengths and weakness of the entity. And then we have, the expectation and purpose. That means the goals, objectives, and what you want to achieve and where you want to be, etc. So the environment and the strategic capability means that this is the internal as well as external analysis, looking at the threats, opportunities, and then identifying your strengths and your weaknesses. Then do you have the strength to explore the opportunities, whether the weaknesses may become the threats. And then we have the expectation and the purposes. Then you have the strategic choices. So like strategic choices mean, for example, the corporate level and international. For example, which product you will be in, which services you will be providing. So making decisions about which products or services should be selling. And then we have the business level strategies, as we have discussed, regarding the particular business, regarding the particular product and particular service. And then we have the direction and the methods. So strategic choices is all about the three things: the corporate level and international, which is the corporate strategy, as we have already discussed, the business level strategy. And then we have the development direction and method. That means making the choices between the alternatives. So moving further, then we will be having the strategy into action, that is implementations. It's all about the organizing, enabling, and managing the change. So there's a separate chapter on the strategy into action. And then we have the mission statement. What exactly is the mission statement? A mission is the purpose of an organization and the reason for its existence. Like, for example, this is the example I have given you. Nestle is a word leading nutrition, health, and wellness company. So this is the introduction and what it does. So in the mission statement, the business should, resemble what they actually does. So it says Nestle, world's leading nutrition, health, and wellness company. So this is what their business model is. And then here is their mission statement. So this is exactly their business model. So if your mission statement does not include your business model, what exactly your business is, then that means the mission statement is vague. A mission of good food and good life is to provide consumer with the best tasting, most nutritious, in a wide range of food and beverage categories of eating occasions from morning to the night. This is what their mission statement is, that they does their business model is the food sector, and they provide different range of the food and beverages, and which are different morning to night, means that they have the milk, they have the snacks, and multiple things. So this is the relevance of the mission statement, that what this mission statement has to do with the strategic management. So when you have the mission statement, it will keep you intact. It will keep your scope limited. Like scope limited means, for example, if you have a mission statement, that means you will focus on your product and services and you will not get out of your scope. So that means to remain intact. So to provide a basis for consistent strategic planning decision, assist with translating broad intentions. So this is what you can read yourself. And now I hope you have got the idea that the mission statement is all about what you will be offering to the consumers and customers. So the relevance is that, by reading the mission statement, the consumers will be attracted towards your, for example, organization. For example, if I read the mission statement, I will prefer the Nestle product because, good food, good life, that means they're keeping my health as a priority. The people wants to work for your company because you know that this is the company which offers the best working environments, and if they take care of their customer, they will take care of their employees as well. So then you have the goals and objective, which we have already discussed. And this is all about the concept of the strategy. So in this lecture, let's summarize what we have discussed. Going back to the first slide, we discussed, first of all, the definition of the strategy, in which there are two to three main things. First is the long-term objective. The second one is that adopting the strategies with respect to the changing environment. And number three is fulfilling the stakeholders' expectations. So it's a long-term strategy, and you need to adopt the changes in the market. Otherwise, there will be a strategic drift. And the third thing is fulfilling your stakeholders' expectation. That means maximizing the shareholders' wealth. And then we discussed the three levels of strategy, which is, which business you should be in, and then business level strategy, and then functional strategy. Then we discussed the strategic drift, that if you're not adopting the changes, you will get out of the market. And then how to avoid the strategic drift. So these are the strategies to avoid the strategic drift so that your business remains the going concern. And then how the business can maintain the competitive advantage. Then we discussed the Michael Porter sustainable competitive advantage, which is cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. So either you sell at the lowest price to become the cost leader, either you sell your product and service differently by having different features and benefits into your product and service, that is the differentiation, or you target a particular niche in the segment, that is the focus strategy. Then if you make the strategy from the scratch, deliberate strategy, if you make the strategy to respond to the something unforeseen development or opportunity in the market, that is emergent strategy. And if you do the slight changes to your strategy due to the changes in the business environment, that is the incremental strategy. And then strategic planning frameworks include the rational planning model, that means making the strategy from the scratch and defining your objective goals and sticking to that. And then the gap analysis, which means you're making a strategy. First of all, you identify where you are and where you want to be, and then reaching that gap. Then the strategic position is all about doing the external analysis and internal analysis, and then evaluating different strategic choices and then implementing that strategy. And then the mission statement, and then the goals and the objectives.